Hey, what's going on, PFR Nation? My name is Kevin Lau, host of the Planning for Retirement podcast. And this Whiteboard Fireside Chat, we're going to be breaking down some of the rules, some of the important rules around rolling over funds from a 529 into a Roth IRA. So if you're in that situation where you're kind of oversaved for college, or maybe your son or daughter didn't use all of the funds in a 529 and you're sort of thinking, hey, what are all of my options? What can I do? And I've heard about this new rule around these Roth IRA rollovers. Stay tuned. This video is for you. So first and foremost, 529 to Roth. Okay, so the Secure Act of 2.0, Secure Act 2.0 made this into law as of January of 2024. So this is the first year you can begin these rollovers. And so this has been the knock on 529s for many, many years. You're like, hey, what if I saved 100,000 in the 529, but my son or daughter only used 50, and now I have $50,000 in this 529 plan. Now it's going to be taxed and hit with a 10% penalty. Now, that is of the earnings only. Okay, your contributions will not be taxed and that you will not have a 10% penalty. Okay, but maybe your contribution, your basis is 25,000 of that, and the other 25,000 is now going to be subject to taxes and a 10% penalty. This has been one of the primary objections I've seen individuals when they're saving for college. They don't want to overload the 529 because, like, hey, what if I have unused funds? I don't want to be stuck. All right. Now, of course, you can change beneficiaries. You can move that 529 from, if you have multiple children, from child number 1 to child number 2, and then from child number 2 to child number 3. You can certainly play that game. You could also change beneficiaries and then change the owner. Just give the funds to your son or daughter and change the ownership to them. And essentially they can take over that 529 account and use it for college for their children, okay, or your grandchildren. Those are options as well. But this Roth IRA option is really, really cool because, now you're sitting in here, okay, now you have this $50,000. Does it make sense for you to begin rolling over funds into this Roth IRA and avoid the taxes, avoid the penalties, and now the beneficiary has those dollars in the Roth IRA account, isolated from taxes, and obviously that is going to be a retirement specific account. So what are some of the rules and what are some of the key things to watch out for? Number one is AGI. That stands for adjusted gross income. Okay, so oftentimes with Roth IRA contributions, you're going to be phased out. And I say oftentimes for you because I'm talking to you, my audience, okay? The audience of this channel, which is generally higher income professionals, professionals that are in that 50 to 60 range that have already accumulated a decent chunk of change and now they want to enjoy retirement. Many of you have been phased out of Roth IRA contributions directly for many, many years. And so for frame of reference for 2024, if you're single and you make between 146,000 upwards of 161K, okay, you are going to begin the phase out process. So if you make less than 146, you're good. You can contribute the entire maximum, which for if you're under 50 is $7,000 per year. And if you're over 50, it's $8,000 per year. Okay, so if you're over 50, if you're under 50, it's $7,000 per year. All right. And then if you're married filing jointly, the phase out begins at 230,000, and then you're completely phased out at $240,000. Okay, so these are the phase out limits. And so if you're in excess of 161 as a single, in excess of 241 as married filing jointly, you can no longer contribute into a Roth IRA. But the cool thing is the 529 rollover, there is no AGI restriction. So it doesn't matter what the taxable income is for the owner or the beneficiary. It doesn't matter. The rollovers can occur. So that's good news. It is subject to annual limits though. Okay. And so this is really important because we just addressed that 7,000, we'll call it as the annual limit per year for a 529 contribution. And let's say your son is named Johnny. And let's say Johnny is making contributions. He got his first job out of college and he's making some decent change and he has no expenses and no college, no student loans. So he's in a good spot. Maybe he's maxing out his Roth IRA every year. Okay. And that's been awesome. So he's been putting in 7K on an annual basis into his Roth IRA. Once the 529 rollover occurs, it's subject to the same annual limit. So the 529 is also subject to the $7,000 limit. Whoops. Okay, limit. Okay. So you can't have both. Johnny can't put in seven and you do the $7,000 rollover. It's a total aggregate contribution. Okay. And so just be aware of that. If your son or daughter is also making contributions into their own Roth IRA and you try to go ahead and enact this rollover, that's going to be a problem. There could be some penalties and some taxes involved if you do this wrong. All right. And so just keep that in mind, is that there's an annual limit of 7,000, and that's inclusive of the 529 to Roth IRA rollovers. Now, who's Roth? This is a big one for me. All right, so this is a big one for me personally. But basically the rules right now, it has to be the beneficiary's Roth IRA. So if Johnny was the beneficiary of the 529 plan, it can go into Johnny's Roth IRA. You can't just change the beneficiary and automatically do a rollover, because there's going to be seasoning limits, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But it has to be the beneficiary's Roth IRA. You can't roll it into your own. If you're mom or dad, if you're the owner of the 529 and Johnny's the beneficiary, you can't roll those funds into the owner's Roth IRA and pad your own retirement. It must be for that beneficiary's Roth IRA. Now we've got the lifetime cap. All right, so we've got that 7,000 a year limit, which again, that's for 2024, but we also currently have a lifetime cap, and that's $35,000 per beneficiary of that 529. Okay, so again, if Johnny has $60,000, if you have $60,000 left over, let's use that example that we starting that first page. Let's say it's $50,000 of excess contributions or excess dollars in the 529 plan. Only $35,000 could be used to roll over into that Roth IRA. The rest will be subject to potentially taxes and penalties if it's not used for college, or again, like I said, change beneficiaries. Pass this asset as a multi-generational legacy tool to pay for your grandkids or even your great-grandkids' college education. Okay, there's no rules that say the money has to come out of a 529 at a certain date. If some of you may remember the Coverdale ESAs or education savings accounts, those had a restriction. Once the beneficiary turned 30, the funds have to come out of the Coverdale. 529, that's not the case. So you can almost kind of look at this as a multi-generational tool if you have funds in excess of this lifetime cap of 35K. Now the seasoning period. So before all of you go out and rush into, front loading a 529 and just start to take advantage of those annual rollover contribution limits, there has to be a seasoning period. The account must have been open for at least 15 years. Okay, so this is the account opening. Okay, or opened. Must have been 15 years, so greater than 15 years. And then the second thing is earnings for contributions and earnings. There's a seasoning period of 5 years. So again, this is for those of you that are like, hey, Johnny's done with school now, but hey, you know what? I'm gonna still contribute to this 529, and I'll just do this rollover every year into a Roth IRA and kind of get Johnny started on the right path for retirement planning. Well, there is a seasoning period. The contributions have to stay in the 529 for at least 5 years, and those earnings before they can be rolled out. Now, one of the challenges that I see is that I don't know of any 529 custodian. I've never seen a 529 statement break out contributions for each pay period or for each period that the contribution was made and the earnings for that specific contribution. Certainly, you might see a cumulative contribution and then cumulative earnings, but how are they going to track specific earnings on specific contributions that happened within the last 5 years? I don't know. That's part of what I think the guidelines that they're going to put out, the revisions prior to 2025 at some point in time. But it must be 5 years for those specific contributions. So if you made a contribution in 2023 or 2022, 2021, 2020 even, and then 2019 is probably that first year you're going to be able to look at contributions from 2019 and start to roll those 2018 into the Roth IRA. So again, those are the basic rules. That's the basic breakdown. So do I feel like this is a good option for some folks? Absolutely. Are there some limitations you need to sort of abide by? Absolutely. Okay. And so for this Travis and Taylor Whiteboard Retirement Plan breakdown that's coming out this Thursday, October 3rd, make sure to check that one out. But I talked a little bit about college planning and some of the potential options that couple has as their kids go through and finish school because they have saved a nice chunk of change inside of those 529 accounts. So make sure to check out that video that's coming out on Thursday, our next podcast episode. But in the meantime, listen, PFR Nation, I hope you guys are finding value in what we're doing, okay? And if you are finding value in what we're doing, make sure to like the video, make sure to share it with a friend or family member, and of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps us not only impact you, but also impact other people, which is what we're all about. And I'm going to start addressing all of you. You've heard it here first as PFR Nation. So that's Planning for Retirement Nation. And so who is PFR Nation? These are individuals like yourself, successful professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners that are in that 50 to 60-year-old range, that they've kind of built up a nice little nest egg for retirement, 7 figures, maybe even pushing 8 figures. And, y'all are in a position where you're like, hey, I want to start to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I want to start to turn these assets into income. But hey, I want to also limit my lifetime taxes paid. And then I want to worry about money less. I want to travel more, play more golf, spend more time with your loved ones, and worry less about money. This is PFR Nation. So instead of me starting videos or ending videos, okay, everybody, or thanks, everybody, it's PFR Nation. All right. I might slip up a couple of times here and there, but PFR Nation, I appreciate y'all tuning in to this latest edition of the Whiteboard Fireside Chat. And until next time, this is Kevin Lau signing.